there are definitely some people out there that I know of that have made some pretty dynamic changes, drastic changes with their differential settings just to see, what the cause and effect is. And then, there's a lot of guys out there that just kind of run them out of the box the way that they come and don't necessarily open them up.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Follow them on Instagram to see some crazy builds using Deechworks components. And if you need any yourself, visit deechworks.com. I'm your host, Con John Turk, and on this episode of the Blind Apex Podcast, we're going to talk about LSDs. Not the drug, get your head out of the gutters, limited slip differentials. And since I think transmissions are voodoo, joining me, maybe a former H2 driver, the guy that does my transmission work and tells me when my suspension is set up wrong, and one of the two people that's allowed to blindly work on my car without me hovering. Deren, welcome back to the podcast, man.
Thanks, Con. Appreciate you having me again.
Yeah, anytime. Obviously, it's that time of year. It's the winter. Some of us have, lots of metal shavings in our transmissions, and we're due for some maintenance and some things like that. And I figured, why not look at my LSD? And then I was like, you know what? I don't know squat about LSDs, really. So
yeah, I saw that drain plug. It didn't look very good.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows? I guess you'll find out what's been chewed on a little bit in there. But
hopefully, it's just some synchros and gear teeth, selector teeth.
Hopefully, we'll see. But before we get too deep into that subject, let's catch up with you. You were at Summit Point, 3 weeks ago from the time of recording, probably a month and a half from the time of release. So what are your plans, man?
I brought the car out for the first time since 2019 late. I changed a bunch of stuff. I didn't get the motor in it that I wanted to. I was going to change to F20B. So the transmission that I built for that engine, I ran with the old H22, which seemed to not mind just turning 8,500 RPM all day long on the rev limiter. So kudos to the old stump puller. That thing just keeps running no matter what I do to it. I plan to probably bring the car back out and play with maybe some H2 and some H1 and ST4 and whatever else I can maybe class the car for. The F20 gives me a pretty good weight break, and if I can get the car down to that weight, I think it might be able to be partially competitive with Ryan Bradfield's ballistic piss missile that he has. That thing, we came out of turn 10 together and he just walked away.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, holy smokes.
Yep.
So,
it's a machine, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to find some serious horsepower if I'm gonna try to play with Ryan. But yeah, that's catching up with me. I've been just working a lot and working on the house, and I finally got around to working on my race car again, finally, after moving out here to West Virginia.
Yeah, but your house decided to take up some of your time today, so I appreciate you coming on still.
Yeah, that faucet debacle was fun.
Yeah, well, just think you get a bathroom remodel out of it. I mean, you're going to do it yourself, but you get one out of it. So.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. That sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, the joys of home ownership. I know people are like, yeah, I want to buy a home, and they don't always realize the headaches that come with the joys. So
yeah, when that pipe broke off behind the wall, I was like, well, all right, I guess we're just going to go ahead and rip this shower out now and start the walk-in.
Yeah. It's probably going to happen to me, so I'll hire somebody at that point, I think. If it gets stuck,
Well,
it's
good.
going to stay
Then it's
stuck.
their fault if they break it off.
Right. So, let's learn a little bit about limited slip differentials. What are they and why do we need them per se?
Well, we need them because we are trying to maximize traction. So if you want to define what is a differential and what the different types are, you have obviously your open differentials, which will only transfer power to the tire with the least grip, which is definitely not beneficial for racing. You have your helical or gear type or Gleason style, whatever you want to call them. Those use a variation of worm gears inside the case to fight against each other and transfer power to the tire with the most traction, basically making them essentially lock together when they're under heavy enough load, but under lighter loads, they will kind of automatically transfer power left to right and try to create more grip. You have the viscous style that use this special kind of fluid and clutches that when it's pressed against, it actually creates more grip, which is kind of a voodoo thing for me, kind of like automatic transmissions. You would think I'd understand both, but that was my dad's thing, not me. So, and then the more common, like we use for road racing, not very friendly for a street car, but great for road racing, drifting, auto sports in general, is the clutch type or cone type differentials that have clutch packs and essentially a cross shaft pin that binds the clutch packs together and connects the wheels as power is applied or taken away.
Okay. And so when you hit Google and you're like, I want an LSD for my car, whatever it is, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, whatever, you'll go down this rabbit hole and they'll say 1-way, 1.5-way, and 2-way differentials. And now some diffs can get set up multiple ways, and some of them come only in one of those ways. But can you explain what that means?
Well, so the 1-way, 1.5, 2-way type differentials are exclusive to a clutch style, a clutch style differential like we commonly use for racing our front wheel drive cars. The way that they work, a 1-way means that it is only applying locking pressure in one direction. And that direction is kind of dependent on how you set it up. You can set it up to be locking under acceleration, or you can flip the guts inside out or upside down and have it lock only under deceleration, which maybe be more beneficial for like rally guys or something that they're trying to drift. Even they're trying to stall the rear axle together to maybe enter a corner or something like that. But for us road racers, we typically will run them in the locking position under acceleration so that it's binding our traction tires together to try to promote the most acceleration out of a corner. A 1.5-way is kind of the same thing. It's a 1-way in one direction, and it's half of that in the other direction. This is kind of more commonly used for rear wheel drive cars. Some of the front wheel drive guys like them too. Basically, it's depending on how you set it up. If you set it up as the 1 being the forward acceleration, that's binding the front wheels as much as it can on acceleration with throttle application. But on deceleration, it'll give it about 50% of that same locking capacity as you're trailing into the corner or decelerating into the corner. So it doesn't come completely unlocked under deceleration. It still tries to lock at about a half the rate, which is the 1.5-way. And if you look at the difference between those, if you had them taken apart on the bench, a one-way, when you look at the triangle where the cross shaft goes through, it'll have either like a 45 or 55 degree ramp angle that the cross shaft pin drives itself into to spread the plates and lock the plates together. And the back side of it, the deceleration side of it, will be 90 degrees to the shaft. It'll be completely perpendicular. Whereas on a 1.5 way or even a 2-way, you'll look at more of kind of a diamond shape. A 1.5 way, the diamond will be smaller on the deceleration side, most commonly used deceleration side. So it almost looks like when you take your thumb and index finger and put them together and make a like quasi diamond, whereas a 2-way will be a true diamond shape, 45 degree ramp angles or 55 degree ramp angles. Because a 2-way means that it will go into full lock forward and full lock backwards or deceleration, which is mostly used for drifters. Some of the more high horsepower rear wheel guys prefer them because it helps them to kind of get the car to rotate into a corner, like stock car type guys or guys with some pretty go fast like Corvettes and whatnot. Even though a lot of them will typically use helical or Gleason style differential, or even I've heard of some guys using spools, which are completely locked, just solid rear axle basically. Or Detroit lockers, but that's a whole different thing. It's not really a limited slip differential. It's a locking differential that when power is applied, it couples itself together almost permanently until power is taken away.
Yeah, this doesn't apply to the CMC guys who waste a spool of MIG wire and ball up their differential in the back.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, apparently it's the fast way for them these
Seriously?
days. Yeah, it's
I mean,
weird.
I know the CMC cheater thing back in the day was they were the Ford track lock, which is, now we're going to get into a little bit of a tangent, but we'll just try to buzz through it real quick. Like a Ford style track lock differential still has a set of spider gears inside of it, but on the outside of those spider gears are clutch plates. And the way it works is when the spider gears are under enough duress, enough load, they fight against each other and spread out and push the clutch plates together and lock the rear axles together. A bit different style than the more common plate style that we use, but still pretty effective. And Ford has used them in Mustangs and in trucks and whatnot for decades. It's not just Ford. There's other companies that run a track lock differential also. And the reason for it is because for a street differential, going around corners and parking lots and that kind of stuff, they're almost seamlessly smooth. Like you don't hardly ever notice that they're even there, almost like a Gleason style. But when you put them into load, they'll bind up real tight and lock the rear wheels together. And the trick for a lot of CMC guys back in the day was they were stuffing an extra clutch plate in there to make them a little more snug.
Yeah, I mean, I think they want them to be as locky and tighty as possible. They're apparently a little hard to drive, but once you get the hang of it, they're faster. But
I mean, the stock car that I used to road race had a Detroit locker in it. And when I would rarely drive the car through the paddock, people would stop me because the rear end was making so much noise trying to go around a corner. They thought something was wrong with it. And that was just normal. That it's a ratcheting mechanism and it goes pop, 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 pop.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole different thing. That's not a limited slip. That's a locker on the same side of like electric and air lockers that you usually see for off-roading stuff.
Yeah. So we've talked about the types of diffs and the 1.5, 2-way, and how they're sort of, some people prefer some people prefer others. The type of driving you do will set you down a path that generally uses one or the other. But you mentioned ramp angles and plates. And so can we talk about the tuning of all these kinds, or the tuning of these types of plate diffs, because that's essentially what we use. So that's what we're going to talk about is plate diffs. So
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're new to this and you're, just got your differential in a box, whether it came from M Factory or Cusco or Geiken or any of those guys, and you're kind of looking at it like, what does this Hootis do? Don't necessarily, if you're mechanically inclined enough, don't be afraid to maybe take it apart and just make sure as you take it apart, you do it very systematically, and you take everything and you lay it all out in the order that it came out in and look at it, and you'll probably get an understanding of how they work just kind of by looking at it. So to try to describe this in words without actually having this on video to show people, the plate style, clutch style differentials that we commonly use for road racing, the housing is 2 halves, and it's usually got a few bolts. You pull the top half off of it, and then down inside of it is a stack of clutches, and then a like a wedge plate, and then there's usually some springs. Depends on what type it is. It can be either sprung at the ends of the case, or it can be sprung where the wedge plates come together. That's kind of 2 different versions. The only company I think really does that anymore is Cusco with their RS and MS or M something T and whatever differentials. The most common type that we have springs between the pressure plates, essentially the plates that squeeze the clutches. And then after you take the pressure plates apart and you pull all the little preload springs out, there is a cross shaft that is basically a cam inside there. And the pressure plates are what actually attach to the axles. The cam is just kind of floating in the middle of all of this. And I'm sorry, back that up. The pressure plates are not attached to the axles. The opposite side, I got to back up a little further. When the axle shafts go into the differential, they are going into a spline section that is surrounded by the clutches, and you have your inactive and your active clutch discs on either end.
Mm-hmm.
Those are what capture the axle shafts as they come into the differential. The pressure plates are independent of that, and so is the cross shaft, the cam. And as you apply torque to the ring gear and the wheels resist that torque, it causes it to drive the cross shaft in a direction, whether it's a deceleration direction or an acceleration direction. Either way, it's a resistance of torque. And that then, depending on the differential, if it's set up as a 1.5 way, spreads the pressure plates to squeeze the clutches and lock that axle, either left or right, into place. And depending on how you set the differential up from that point, determines how much lockup it can totally achieve. You can have it go to 100% lockup, or you can have it go to, depending on how many clutches are in it, 50, 60, 70, 30 something percent. Which just means that you will have slippage out of the tire with less grip. Power can then transfer to that tire if it's not getting enough pressure to lock them both together. That makes sense?
Yep.
I kind of had to go back there because I goofed on my what's attached to what description.
I mean, you told everybody that they should open their diff and look at it if they're mechanically inclined. And I used to think I was mechanically inclined because I won't touch that. I'm like, That's the voodoo for somebody else to deal with. But so
It's really actually very simple. It's
Okay.
just, I mean, all differential stuff is a pretty simple design. It's just different variations of who designed what and how they implement it. When you kind of take it apart and you look at it and you see how everything goes together, it really helps your brain kind of understand, like, oh, I see how this works now.
Yeah, maybe when you do it, if you're doing it on a weekend, I'll have to come up and you can at least show me what happens in there. But
Sure.
we haven't touched this new diff, but in the old car, in my B series car, I vividly remember, because you had a best practice of literally writing on the transmission what the settings of the diff were. And
Still do.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, because you build enough that you don't remember mine, and I'm too dumb to remember mine. So it was great for me to look down, right? You would ask me, what is it set to? I don't remember. And I'd be like, it was 100% lockup and like an 80-pound breakaway, foot-pound breakaway.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay. So what does that mean to me?
So in the clutch packing on either side, there are active and inactive plates, like I said before, and the plates basically determine whether they bind into the case of the differential or to the hub that attaches to the axle of the differential. You can take those plates and you can stack them differently. So if you do an active, inactive, active, inactive, active, inactive, so oscillating every other one, that would generally generate 100% lockup when torque is applied in the one-way direction. If it was set up as a 1.5 way, it would apply about half of that, so about 50% lockup in the halfway direction, or the deceleration, most commonly used direction. If it's a 2-way, it would lock up 100% forward and 100% backwards, or 100% acceleration, 100% deceleration. You can kind of custom tailor that by switching the plates around and stacking them as active, active, inactive, inactive, active, inactive, and like basically clumping the active and inactive ones together instead of having every other plate be an active, inactive, active, inactive. And depending on how many plates are in the differential, because they vary in case sizes and adjustability, like most of the Honda stuff is only going to have about a 12 or an 8 plate diff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really only stack those to be like 100%, 66%, 50%, and 33%, depending on how many plates are in there. If it's a 12 plate, you can get 100, 66, and 33 out of it. That's your lockup values. If it's a 8 plate, you can only get 150% out of them. That's just the way you can stack the active and inactive plates.
Okay.
Some of the bigger units that you would find, like in a GM 12 bolt or Ford 9-inch or something like that, they can have up to 20 plates in them. And you can basically adjust those then at like a 20% interval. So you get 100%, 80, 60, 40, 20. And of course, you can have those set up any way you want, whether they're 1-way, 1.5, 2-way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, your old car was set up 100% lockup, which means, and now I don't remember though, did I set it up as a 1-way or 1.5?
It was a 1-way, I think.
It was a 1-way? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
that means that when you're on the throttle, it is binding both front axles together at 100% rate. So they're basically lock the two front wheels together.
Mm-hmm.
When you're off the throttle, because it was set up as a 1-way, there is no lockup at all. So you can spin both front wheels completely independent of each other on deceleration, which is great for front wheel drive when you're trying to dive the thing into a corner and rotate it. You don't want the front tires really locked together. There's some guys that really like the feel of a 1.5 way. I don't really like the feel of a 1.5 way. I like my car set up as a 1 way, as I like to know that when I turn the wheel, the front end is not going to be fighting against itself axially, and I'll get uneven rotation out of both front tires. Your car was set up with about an 80% lockup in it, which means that was an M factory diff?
Yeah, it was an
right?
M factory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's little springs that are in between the drive plates or the pressure plates. Setting it up at about an 80% lockup means that there was, I think, like 8 springs in it. I think you can fit 12. Not lockup. I'm sorry, breakaway torque. And what that is it's the preload on the clutch packs. So it's how much force does the 2 pressure plates statically have before the drive pin is forcing them to pinch the clutches even tighter. So it's just preload on the clutch packs, and that's measurable by essentially putting an axle in either end of the differential, holding one side and putting the torque wrench on the other side and turning it, see how much torque it takes before it slips and it breaks away and the torque wrench moves instead of being bound. So the lighter you run your preload, the more you have clutch slippage under lighter conditions, like driving through the paddock, really more than anything. Really light throttle application, that kind of stuff. So if you're just entering like slower speed corners and you're just kind of very lightly on the throttle, not really under acceleration, but just kind of maintaining momentum, that's your breakaway preload on the clutches. And that can be handy, especially for, say, like autocrossers that are making a lot of quick turns and tight turns. They don't really want to run as much preload. They want something more loose, so that when they dive the car in and they're rotating around the front axle, it'll really separate and they can basically pirouette the car on the inside front tire. Mm-hmm. If it's a front wheel drive, at least. If it's a rear wheel drive, it's a different thing. But I think for the sake of this, we'll stick to mostly front wheel drive talk, right?
Yeah, I guess so. There's so many listeners that I didn't expect we were ever going to have this many listeners. So front and rear.
It's great.
It is great. But we have a good mix of everybody. The trick to this is really going to be, you're either going to have to do a copious amount of research. Either way, I think you're going to have to talk to a lot of folks that you trust, or find somebody you trust to do the work and maybe knows your driving style, knows your car type a little bit. This is all very personal, it seems like. The adjustability, how it's all set up, it just seems like it's you sort of need to start tailoring it. And I don't think enough people do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely can change the entire dynamic of how your car handles, especially on a racetrack, which is what we really are going for here. And yeah, there are definitely some people out there that I know of that have made some pretty dynamic changes, drastic changes with their differential settings, just to see, what the cause and effect is. And then, yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that just kind of run them out of the box the way that they come and don't necessarily open them up. And like I told you in the prelude, that I got a differential brand new in the box from a company that a lot of us use. And I pulled it out of the box and I was looking at it without taking it apart, just looking through the sight windows. And I was like, that's not right. I was like, this is set up for a K-Series car. And I took it apart on the bench and I was like, yeah, no, the cross shaft is backwards. The pressure plates and the cross shaft are backwards in it. It's set up for a standard rotation, not a reverse rotation, like my car being a Prelude transmission would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like confused for a minute. I called the manufacturer briefly, and they weren't really much help on it. And I was like, I know this is wrong. And I dug back through. I have some old stuff, still on paper because everything's on digital nowadays. And I found some old setup documents from Cusco, and I was like, yep, that cross shaft and the pressure plates are definitely backwards in this differential. And I'm glad I noticed that, because I would have just stuck a ring gear on it and thrown it in that transmission and not paid any attention to it. But thankfully I looked at it and I realized that it was not right. And I wonder how many more out there are running around on a differential that is open on acceleration and locking on deceleration.
Oh man. Well, how popular is the H22 transmission? I don't.
Well, yeah,
it's like
a
you
lot
and
of,
Hunter.
A lot of drag
right?
racers used to use those. Yeah, well, it's still a lot of the drag racers used to use those back in the day, and they would put plate style differentials in because it was too hard to drive a front wheel drive car through the pits and pull it up into the staging lanes and everything with a spool in it. So even the drag racer guys were running plate style differentials, because as soon as they put the power to them, they'd go into full lockup and they wouldn't have to worry about opposite wheel spin.
Yeah. One thing you did mention was that you went to a paper copy because everything went digital. We were talking before we hit record button that not everything we read on the internet is true. And I really think that's the case when it comes to maybe not technical specifications of the limited slip, but somebody's reasoning for setting it up the way they did. Unless you know that person, like, I would take everything on how somebody set it up with a grain of salt.
Well, yeah, that, and you get Jeff on the message boards that, oh, I set mine up this way, blah blah blah. It's great for my daily driver that I drive on the weekends to Cars and Coffee or to go get groceries, or if you're driving around with a plate style diff in your car on the street, it's probably not the best idea, but good for you. I mean, that's really a track only type diff, but there are people that do it, and they, I guess, like the fact when they pull out of a parking lot and the thing goes go, and the whole car shakes. But you get all those mix of guys that are, and girls that they'll tell you, oh, I set mine up like this and blah blah blah, and it's great, and I drive 100 miles every day to work, and that's not really giving you the information you need if your intent is to track the vehicle.
Yep. So you got into street driving a plate diff, which maybe one day I will, because I really want an 8th gen sedan street car to do one lap of America in. So obviously it's going to get this spare Cusco plate diff that I have in the house. Why not?
Well, I laugh about it because I got a coworker with a what is it, like a Q60 Infinity or something like that, and he wanted to put his factory viscous differential was basically non-existent anymore. It wore out, and he wanted to put a differential in the car, and everybody at the shop told him, don't put a plate type in it, put a Gleason style in it. No, man, I want all the locks. Okay, so he bought a two-way. What did he buy?
No, all the locks. Literally all the locks.
Two-way cause? I can't remember. I set it up for him, but I can't remember. Yeah, he wanted it to lock up, and then like the next week, we told him, we're like, it's going to be miserable to drive through a parking lot. And he's like, no, man, no, it'll be fine. I want it to lock up and da-da-da. And like a week later, he's like, hey, so are we sure that thing's set up right? I'm like, that's what you wanted. He's like, it's really bad, like trying to turn into a parking spot. I'm like, I know, that's what you wanted.
Yep. Yeah. For those that don't know, if you're test driving a car and somebody says, hey, I've got a plate diff, generally, if you turn slow and tight, it's just going to chatter on you. That way, it actually has that diff. But
Yeah, that's how you know that the limited slip is working.
yeah, unless it's an OS, I don't think the OS chatters that much. But
it's because I think they run a pretty light preload on the pressure plates.
right.
So, if you have something that's down in like the sub 50s, even my current one, I noticed driving through the paddock, that car's set up at a 66% lockup, with I think about 56% break or 56 foot-pounds breakaway torque. I noticed right off the bat that it was actually a lot more favorable just driving through the paddock than my old Cusco was in my old transmission. So, yeah, it's just from lighter preload, and then of course it being only a 66% lockup. When I'm on the power, it's still getting differential wheel speed left and right. So that was kind of nice. It didn't go pop 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 as I tried to pull out of my parking spot.
Yeah, well. So, for track folks, what do you think we should be looking at as far as a maintenance schedule? Because this car's had that diff in it for 8 years, and I don't think anybody's ever looked at it before. So,
oh goodness, did I not look at that diff? Well, so if your car is set up with a lighter preload and 100% lockup, it's not going to hammer the clutch plates as bad as something that's got a higher preload rate in it and like a less than 100% lockup rate, because then it's bound up tighter under lighter load and it's slipping basically all the time, which is just going to burn the clutches up. So not knowing how your K-Series car is currently set up, but definitely need to, which you're going to bring me the transmission anyway, I'll definitely investigate that. We'll take it apart, look at it. Do you know, I can't, that's a Geiken?
yeah, it's a Geiken. I definitely need to bring you the transmission. It looked like it had a glitter party inside. So
Yeah, that didn't look great.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's just clutch material. I mean, the Geikens, I think they tend to like to set them up a little bit on the softer side, it seems. So it's most of that material that you found on the drain plug is probably coming from the clutch discs themselves in the differential. Hopefully it's not like gear or bearing wear is what my bigger concern is, because that would be probably not as good. So we'll find out when we get the thing taken apart and separated. We'll tear it all down, take all the discs out of the clutch and everything, and out of the differential, and check them all out, and obviously order extras and spares and everything else.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to order parts. I'm sure I'm not lucky enough to have it just be some clutch pack material from my diff, but I'm also on a super rare gear set. Nobody can find these DC 5R 456s anymore, so I need to take care of them, make sure they're not shredding up and dying. So
yeah, most certainly. And usually the gears themselves are pretty hard to beat up. It's where the selector goes over the synchronizer and then binds to the gear. That's where they get hammered. And if it's got a bad synchro in it, and you're banging gears anyway, and it's crunching and crunching and crunching. It's not crunching the synchronizer, it's crunching the gear itself, unfortunately.
Well, we'll find out. I think this is the best time of year. It's the off season. If you're doing if you're in for transmission service, you might as well look at the differentials. In front wheel drive cars, it's basically you're doing it all. You're right there anyway. And
yeah, exactly.
In a rear wheel drive car, you're sort of, it's out there on its own in a pumpkin, but might as well.
Well, they don't get hammered as badly. Usually when they go bad in a big way.
Well, I wouldn't know. I don't race those things. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. The mystery is yet to be uncovered for me. Hopefully people know what their stuff is. But like you said, most people are probably running box stock diffs. So when it's service time, it might be time to look into, at least know what your numbers are. Learn what they are.
That's where the magic is too. And, like you mentioned, it is a definite fine tuning aspect to the balance and performance of your vehicle, and playing with those settings and adjusting them might seem daunting and scary to some people, but there's a lot of performance benefit that can be gained from it, depending on, even on a track to track basis. If you're running something more wide open, high speed versus something that's shorter, tighter, slower speed, you may want to change your differential settings just for those tracks.
Well, y'all got a lot of time if that's what you're doing. That's all I'm saying. But
that's why I have 2 transmissions.
Well, I don't want to swap transmissions between it. Trust me, I was going to build.
It's a heck of a lot easier than taking it apart and doing the differential. You just have 2 transmissions with the same gear sets and 2 different differential setups, and you just change the trans.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a couple hours versus several hours.
Yeah, I get it. But I don't want to go and build a Summit Point transmission and then a VIR transmission. I just don't want to do it. So,
well, you want to run at the front. That's kind of what you got to do. I know there's certain national champs out there that have particular gear sets that they like to run for certain tracks.
Oh, don't tell me that. But I guess we'll find out in the future. I don't know if there's anything else you think we should cover during the LSD conversation.
Well, we covered kind of how it works and the different types of setups and whatnot. I guess we can kind of cover the cause and effect of the setups if you want to. We can get into like what those changes actually do.
Yeah.
You have run mostly 100% lockup stuff with varying preloads, right?
Yep.
All on one way or one and a half way too?
Well, I don't know what I have now, but I know I had a one way in the first car.
Yeah, I don't know how your guy can set up. So I've run a few different versions. And I've talked to plenty of people that have run various different versions. Hi, Chad and Jackie, if you're listening.
They do.
Because I know, depending, they like to run a 1.5 way on a front wheel drive car because they say it feels like it has better transition into the corners. It's a more smoother entry and transition, I guess, mid corner. I tried 1.5. I didn't like it. The front end just still felt too tight, and maybe that's a combination of the chassis needed some work too and whatever, but I basically only did it for one weekend. I pulled it apart. I set it up as a one way. That was my old Cusco diff. And immediately no real other changes to the chassis. I might have changed springs, or sway bar at least. I could immediately notice, especially entering like the carousel at Summit, that the car was much more pointy. But that one was set up at a one-way 100% lock with, I don't know, maybe like 60 foot-pound breakaway preload torque. The thing I didn't like about it, and I didn't really know this at the time, was how abrupt it locked up. And that's kind of where you get into the difference of purchasing a one-way or a one-way / 1.5 way differential. Because you can buy, I think, especially M Factory, I think sells a Honda one way and a Honda 1/1.5 way. And what that means is you get kind of two differentials in one if you purchase that 1/1.5 way. And you can set it up to be a one way with a 45-degree ramp angle, or you can set it up to be a 1.5 way with a 45 and 75-degree ramp angle. Not 75 degree. Yeah, 75 degree, I think. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but so you can set that differential up as two different activations, as a one way or a 1.5 way. But if you buy the M Factory one way, and I'm using air quotes, that differential has two separate settings for a one way in it. So you can take it apart and you can change where the cam contacts the pressure plates and set it up with a 45-degree ramp angle or a 55-degree ramp angle. And the lower the ramp angle, the more aggressively it spreads the pressure plates and binds the clutch packs. The more ramp angle you introduce, the less aggressive it is able to spread. It's more resistance against the cam and spreading and pinching or binding the clutch packs. So the new differential I set up for the car, and mind you, the car's on like 10-year-old tires almost, and everything else just kind of felt like trash. But the differential felt great. I set this one up at a 66% lockup. I think somewhere in like the 60 foot-pound breakaway range preload. But I did it on a 55-degree ramp angle, which the biggest thing I noticed with that, and it's something that always kind of bothered me with the old setup, was at Summit Point, if you're familiar with the track, or you can look at the track map, if you're not, you go down in turn one, and turn one's a pretty tight hairpin that transitions into turn two, which is just a decreasing radius right-hand turn. And you have to shift in the middle of that corner, unless you're just really lugging out in a higher gear. But most cars, say you're in third, you're coming out of there, you're still turning the wheel at a pretty decent amount to the right, and you're coming around that turn two complex, and you got to dip the clutch and shove it in the next gear. And the biggest thing I noticed about setting it up with a lighter lockup rate and a lighter ramp angle was the car did not get nearly as upset when I would make that 3/4 shift, because before I would let off, the car would almost snap left, and then I'd get back on the gas. And of course, I still got the steering wheel turned about 20 or 30 degrees to the right. I'd get back on the gas all of a sudden, and it would jolt the car back over to the right as it relocked the front end together. And it was always not unsettling, but just it was a noticeable thing that, like, all of a sudden the car was going left and then going back right. And setting it up with the less aggressive ramp angle and the less aggressive lockup made that almost unnoticeable. The other big spot, if you're familiar with Summit at all, is when you have to shift, depending on where you want to shift, between 7, 8, and 9. There's times that I'll shift it between 7 and 8. There's times I shift between 8 and 9. It depends really on just how much speed I have, or where I'm at with traffic or anything. But again, it's corners where you're still slightly turning and you need to make a shift. Having it set up softer, so to speak, was a big difference, and it was much less unsettling. And on a car that, I'm not joking, my rear tires were literally 2015 date codes. My fronts were at least 2021s.
You don't want to die. That's crazy.
I tell you what, man, the first session out in the morning, it was 8:30. It was cold. We were the first group on track. I think about the fourth or fifth lap, I was coming out of turn 9, and I'm sitting there in the driver's seat, coming out of 9, going into 10, under the bridge. I literally had the thought of like, I'm 40. I don't know if I have this in me anymore. I might be done.
Quiet you.
The car felt like trash. It was just so bad. It was so fun because it was just sliding all over the place. And like, I really had to be on the top of my game and my mind and everything to keep up with just the stupid flick oversteer that I'd have to induce into it, because the back end just decided like, hey, I'm going to cut loose and turn 4.
Yeah.
Wall.
It wasn't the 40-year-old behind the wheel. It was those 40-year-old Toyos you had on.
Well, yeah, they're literally 15 or 16 date code. It might be one of each. I can't even remember.
Oh.
And yeah, they were like hockey pucks out there on the track. But after getting a heat cycle in them and kind of adjusting things, I was able to actually drive the car and have some fun and not be petrified that I was just going to fence it. So, but yeah, back to the differential setup stuff. I personally really like the one-way because it unlocks completely on deceleration as you turn in and you're trail braking and you're diving the nose into the corner. The front end is, at least for a front-wheel drive car, of course, the front end is completely separated. Both wheels are operating at their own wheel speed, so you have differential wheel speed going on there. The car is able to then rotate around the front end without it being hindered by drag through the differential. I personally, I like the one-way over the 1.5. Other guys out there and girls tell me otherwise, and it's all personal preference. And to get back to what you were talking about, yeah, you don't really know until you try these things. So don't be afraid of taking your differential apart and changing it, putting different settings in it, changing the clutch stack, just even changing the little tiny springs that are inside of it that set preload. You never know how that is going to feel for you on track or even driving around on the street.
Yeah. So let me bottle your mind a little bit, as Freddie would say. M Factory has for the FK8, so that's the Civic Type R, just so everybody understands, the new turbocharged 2-liter Civic Type R. They offer a one-way, a one-way / 1.5 way, and then they offer a 1.5 / 2-way diff.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I started looking around, and now maybe I'm wrong because I don't know what I'm talking about, but is it just the guts inside that need to change? Okay. So
basically just the pressure plate and the cross shaft. That's the only difference between 1, 1.5, and 2. Okay.
So they're now offering this 1.5 / 2-way in B series. Yep. Both the LS and the B16 Type R. So
interesting. I wonder.
I don't know
why, because I don't want my front end tied together when I'm trying to enter a corner. I did that before. This is to go back even farther now. The M2B4 code transmission that I ran for, I think, like the 2027 or 2017 season, had a factory limited slip differential in it. And I didn't know this at the time. I thought it was a Gleason style. It's not. It's a viscous style. So it's like a combination of a clutch type with some special fluid in it that causes it to lock up when it's loaded, and a helical Gleason style. And I just actually recently found that out because I took the transmission apart to put my new differential and everything in it. and realized that that didn't fit the case. And I realized why was because the factory differential for the M2B4 transmission has a factory viscous type differential in it, which I guess is the only Prelude transmission that had that, or maybe there's one or two other, but the other transmission I had, which was also a factory LSD, was a true Gleason style, helical style LSD, which is T2W4. If you guys are Prelude nerds and know your transmission codes, which is the Euro Accord F20B blue top transmission. The problem with running those is they never unlock. So when you're on deceleration with either of those type of differentials, because they're effectively Gleason style, even though the viscous coupled one is slightly different. When you're trying to turn the car into the corner and pitch it in, it's constantly dragging the front wheels down to the same rotational speed. And I had a lot of trouble getting the car to enter a corner with that style setup, with a helical or a Gleason style setup. And it's because I couldn't get the front wheels to decouple. So running a two-way on a front wheel drive, maybe there's people out there to do it. Kudos to them. In my mind, I would, after running helical style, I don't think it would work very well. Possibly it's not for road race. It might be for rally guys, or
That's true.
Possibly even the drag racers. Because I mean, we've seen obviously the drag race guys are cracking some phenomenal mile an hour out of turbocharged Hondas these days, and what unfortunately has become a big issue and a common thing is they crash in the shutdown. And maybe they're crashing in the shutdown because when they let off the gas, the differential opens up and they get differential wheel speed out of the front while they're trying to brake. So while I'm kind of talking this through in my mind, the two-way would probably be beneficial for the drag race guys, so that when they brake going into the shutdown, it's still keeping the front wheels coupled together at the same wheel speed. They're not getting a differential wheel speed that is causing the car to yaw and get all unsettled. And unfortunately, we've seen some horrendous crashes out of the pro front wheel drive guys over the last several years, and maybe that's why the introduction of the two-way is becoming a thing for the Hondas.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And rally and then the drag decel part, that one small portion of what they do can be kind of dangerous. So, I have one saved question that I forgot to put on the list, and I don't know why, because it's asked every day on some Facebook auto group, whatever it is, 8th gen Civic, Honda this, Nissan that, whatever. I bought this diff. What fluid should I run in my transmission or in my diff?
Oh, that's a whole different thing. Oh man. You should pretty much always stick to either manufacturer specification for the transmission, or if your differential provider has a particular fluid that they want you to run. I know OS Geiken has their own fluid that they prefer you to run for most of their applications. It'll say, I think, in their application chart what you can and cannot use. M Factory, especially for the Honda guys, they like you to use the Torco RTF or something like that.
Yeah,
racing transmission fluid, I think.
Yep.
Which is a non-synthetic mineral based. I think it's a 7590 weight. Don't quote me on that. Maybe it's a 75-110 or something. That said, I have run my M Factory stuff with Motul 75-140 forever without any kind of problems. M Factory, I think, really tells you that you should use a mineral-based oil because of the bearings in the transmission more than the cause and effect of the differential itself. I personally always like to run a limited slip based fluid, especially on a clutch type or plate type differential. It makes it smoother.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely don't notice the chatter as much in it. I've even told guys, like my coworker that decided to put a two-way in his street car, I told him to put a bottle of, I think it's like a 3-ounce bottle of Ford Motorcraft limited slip oil in it. And he said that helped it out quite a bit from just the regular gear oil that he had refilled the diff with. So manufacturer specifications are a preference. And that manufacturer is either your OE car manufacturer or the manufacturer of the differential, I guess is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah.
But no oil is worse than some oil. So always make sure you got something in it.
Yeah. I mean, but generally speaking, you open the box and it's usually got a like use this oil paper in it, you know?
Well, all right. So since I have this sitting here in front of me for reference, it doesn't have it on there. Yeah, it does. This is from M Factory.
Okay.
This isn't even from my differential. I don't know whose this one is. I've had it sitting around for so long. It says, recommended transmission fluid, Honda application only. When ordering your new M Factory forged transmission components, we highlight. So that doesn't even necessarily say differential. It just says forged transmission components, meaning this is probably for a gear set more than it's for a diff. We highly recommend that you order our Torco transmission fluid at the same time. For your convenience, we offer blah, 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 but yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Do not use gear oil in your Honda transmission. Wait. Yeah, it says do not use gear oil in your Honda transmission. Doing so will cause more damage than good, especially in expensive synthetic/performance gear oils. Basically taking a poke at like Motul or others. Please visit our website for further information. So, that said, I'm trying to reference my memory bank from years ago now when I talked to them at M Factory about that. And I believe I remember them telling me that it was more for the bearings in the transmission than it was for the clutches in the differential or anything else. Like the clutches in the differential are going to work regardless of what fluid you put in. It was something to do about the bearings. They wanted you to run like a mineral-based oil. I have always run synthetic-based stuff and never had a problem with any of my bearings or gears or anything else. Since we're on the subject of fluids, the only thing that I ever really changed in my race car was I originally ran a 7590 in it, and I would notice that later in the races, the transmission would start feeling a little crunchy, and it wouldn't happen until like the last several laps. And I'd get back and I'd drain it at the shop, and like the fluid would be burned up and it would pour out like water even when it was cold. I was like, So I upped to 75-140, and those problems went completely away, and the transmission was consistent, shifting was consistent, everything felt great for weekends on end. And I could run 2, 3, 4 weekends without having to worry about changing transmission fluid. When I ran to 7590, I'd have to do it every weekend.
Yeah. I noticed the same thing when I had the K series transmission. One, I think they run hotter. The transmission runs hotter for whatever reason. It's
more torque.
Yeah.
The car makes a lot more torque than your older B series stuff did. And really torque is what is burning up the transmission fluid. It's squeezing it. The more torque you have, the more squish it has between the gears. And that's what is really hammering the transmission fluid. So it makes sense that your K series car and my H22 car that make probably pretty similar torque values are burning up transmission fluid because we are squishing it between the gears so much more aggressively than a lighter torque car.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know my car has more torque than the B series did, but it's no K24 rules committee. It's no K24. So
I hear a protest. Protest.
There's no protest here. I need to figure the car out some more before I start asking for anything. Right. God forbid I even joke about a rules request. The whole place will melt down. So
Did you submit any this year, or have you just stayed status quo?
No, I'll let the typos stay. I won't submit anything about typos. And really, I want to validate my driving first, and then I need to really figure out this car, right? I mean,
sure,
it's better, right? With your help, it's gotten a lot better. But
to drop seconds.
Yeah, seconds easily.
And it's gained consistency.
Yep. Yeah, super consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy to drive. Not necessarily a gnarly car to drive. I may need to make it a little gnarlier to find that extra time, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to do that first before I even ask for anything, right? There's no reason.
Yeah.
So, and one of those is let's check the health of the transmission. Let's actually figure out what's in my differential. I'm sure it's a box stock OS, whatever that was, right? So,
yeah, we'll find out soon enough.
Yep. But
we'll have to do another podcast just on unboxing your transmission.
Oh, Lord.
We can do one of those unboxing videos that are so popular.
No, we're good. You'll pull it up
Today's
and it'll.
Episode, we are unboxing Khan's transmission.
And it smells like burnt up transmission fluid. And, so. But, yep. So, do we have anything else we need to cover?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I think that was pretty comprehensive, don't you?
I think so. And the dogs are probably wanting to come back inside now.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're
sitting at the door. I was tired of Ranger whining at me.
Yeah, for those of you who heard something in the background, it was Ranger. He was whining because he needed attention or wanted to go out or something. Usually attention.
No, he's a baby. Yes, he wants to be in somebody's lap at all times. Yeah, because he's like a 45-pound lap dog.
But all right, Deren. Well, I appreciate it. I will see you soon, and I really want to see you at the track next year, man. I think that's going to be.
I'm going to make an honest effort at it. I promise you all that, but I'm not going to commit to anything serious. I'm not going to try to run a whole season again or anything like that. But Summit's my home track. It's 20 minutes out my front door, and I've always loved that place. I know there's some people that knock it and put it down, but really, Summit Point is one of the better tracks, in my opinion, on the East Coast. Not necessarily for racing. It's a good racing track, but it is a great track for finding a balance and setting the car up and playing with things and trying different things just to see how it feels, because you get so much of a mix of different corners and sections of the track that you can really kind of fine tune how the car balances and handles. I will stand on that soapbox till the day I die, because I've driven a lot of tracks, and I still, if I were to take a new car out and go do chassis setup on it, I'm taking it to Summit.
Yeah, me too. And the way the stackers roll down Summit Point Road, the pro guys do it too. So, all right, man.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Other venues out there like VIR in Mid-Ohio and Watkins Glen, they are phenomenal. They're amazing, but Summit's still the place to go just to set up.
So, oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Think that's it?
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
You too, man.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.